All right, continuing my Halloween week series, let's talk about vampires and magic. So the original vampires and magic are the Sengir vampires. There's even a card, Sengir Vampire. They are all sired by Baron Sengir, who traveled the plains with a planeswalker companion before he got left behind on Ulgratha. So that's why we see them on Dominaria and in the homelands on Ulgratha. They are true undead. They become ageless in death, but the further down the lineage you get from Sengir himself, the more monstrous they get. Which is how you get things like this: elongated features, long, sharp, claw-like fingernails, the pointy ears become more exaggerated, all that stuff. Until you get to be something awful like this. Sengir vampires will often take after the Baron himself. They'll have red eyes and usually some sort of gem on their chest piece. And often a braid or a hairstyle like his. There's also the Krovikan vampires. These are from the Ice Age, from the Kildoran city of Krov. It sort of gets overrun by plagues and stuff, and these very pale vampires take over. It's possible these are Sengir vampires, but the connection is never explicitly made. We don't know a great deal about them. There's also Shaku, who again could be a Sengir vampire. Notice the elongated features, but the face feels sort of wrong even for that. We also know that it's possible to just be cursed as a vampire. You don't have to be part of a big vampire lineage. Krovax, when he kills the angel Selenia, is cursed and becomes his own kind of vampire. That is not an uncommon origin for vampires and magic. They are often associated with angelic curses. On Mirrodin, there was originally only one vampire, and he looked sort of like this guy. He drained blood through these needles. When we returned, this sort of evolved. The people he turned had changed on their own. They all have a pair of extended fingernails, which are almost like tubes are needles that they drain their blood through. Ravnica has several different kinds of vampires. They have the classic blood-sucking kind. Those are usually in the Orzhov. They have the Morai, who are usually in the Dimir. There's sort of monstrous mind vampires that drink age. These ones are based on Czech myth. And then you have Zadek's kind of vampire who drink blood, but they're also psychic. And you usually find these ones in the Dimir as well, and usually by drinking someone's blood is how they get memories and stuff from them. I should also mention, for the most part, Magic's vampires can come out into the sunlight. That's not a real weakness, although they're usually they don't love sunlight, but they're not going to burst into flames the moment they walk out. Alara's vampires are sort of just regular vampires, but because blood is so limited, their power is based on how well they fed the last time they fed. On Zendikar, the vampires were originally created by the Eldrazi. Eldrazi magic warped the original Blood Chiefs, and anyone the Blood Chiefs sired became a vampire. I talked about in the zombie video yesterday, if you're a regular vampire, you only, and you try and sire a new vampire, all you will create is a zombie-like null. These vampires can usually be distinguished by the spines and stuff they have that were actually handles for Eldrazi minions to ride them. And they have sort of a very distinct look with their face makeup. Their skin ranges from normal skin tones to purple. These vampires are specifically alive. They were transformed. They weren't killed and reborn. On Innistrad, Edgar Markov created the vampiric curse with the help of the demon Shilgengar, using an angel ritual. They follow a lot of the sort of classical Dracula tropes, specifically the Universal Films version of Dracula. They have a lot of potential powers they can have, turning into mist, turning into bats, some limited psychic powers. One notable thing is you'll often find them in red when they're recently turned because they can't control their bloodthirst. And also notably, they have black sclera with bright colored eyes. And they're usually pretty pale. Tarkir vampires are based on local folklore of Southeast Asia. These things are horrifying. You can tell them. They have sort of a human face mask over a awful maw with some really big tusks poking out and a very long tongue. Vishkari vampires are just Aetherborn. Certain ones of the Aetherborn are born with the ability to drain the life force from other creatures to extend their own. On Ixalan, the vampires are a curse from the demon bat god Aclazatz. Most of it was spread by Elenda, who looked at it as sort of a divine burden. And their sort of church is now fractured between the white and black factions, more or less, those who take it as Elenda intended. But because vampirism is mostly spread among the aristocracy, there are also those who just want it for power or use it as an excuse for power. They are true undead, and they can be like reborn, resurrected, reconstituted after long periods of time, and they fly by making like their lower half this like black dust cloud that you see. They're notable again by pale skin, pointy ears. A lot of vampires share those traits, but you'll almost always see them in like Spanish conquistador garb. It's very easy to tell. We've only ever seen one vampire from Kylum, but what's interesting is they sort of have a serrated jaw where like their jawline goes up like this if you look closely. That's basically all we know though. Immersturm Predator is a vampire dragon. We don't really know why. There's not really vampire lore for Kaldheim. Now on Arcavios, vampires are almost like people. They're living. They're more like they're a humanoid subspecies. They don't reproduce by turning people. They have regular families and things like that. They just also happen to have an affinity for blood. For the vampires on Capenna, it's not super clear whether or not Xander is like the progenitor of all of them, or if it works like we just talked about over at Strixhaven, where they're regular people. You know, and Hello has a human daughter, so it's not super clear how any of that works. We just know they were primarily concentrated in the Maestros. But given that Parness's mother is human, it seems to be something that's done to you, perhaps as part of being a Maestro. Gastal's vampires, who we met them in Aetherdrift, although it's a very old name as of a plane, they drink gasoline. Sort of fitting for like a Mad Maxi vibe. They are all about drinking fuel. And then lastly, our most recent vampires are the Voidborn. They look pretty human. It's not clear if these are like a human subspecies or these are specifically the Sasurians, who are like those created from like the first super void. But regardless, we typically see them among the monoists. They don't look too different from their human counterparts. And we don't really know exactly what vampire means to them. I assume it's like absorbing someone's essence into their singularity. But that's vampires and magic in a nutshell.